the final weekend before the All-Star break, and tonight we're in Southern California. Game 2 of the 4-game series between the New York Yankees and the California Angels. And at the start of play today, the Yankees only 2 games out of first place behind the Toronto Blue Jays. And the Angels also in the thick of things in the Western Division standings. Only 3 games off the pace set by the Chicago White Sox. Good evening, everybody. I'm Joel Myers alongside Buck Martinez, and welcome to Anaheim Stadium. Well, Buck, when the New York Yankees started this road trip late last week out to the West Coast, they were in pretty good shape, but the little things starting to catch up with them.
Well, you know, Joel, everybody in the division has really had these tough spells, and the Yankees in this road trip, they've really not been able to close out games. 1-6 on the trip. They've been ahead in every game, but they haven't been able to close it out. The middle relief pitching is a concern for Buck Showalter and the Yankees right now.
We couldn't ask for a better pitching pairing tonight on ESPN's Friday Night Baseball. Jimmy Key against Mark Langston, both headed to the All-Star game.
Having fine season, and they do it in different styles. Jimmy Key is the finesse pitcher, and Mark Langston's the power pitcher. I tell you one thing, Langston is starting to show signs that he might need the days off during the All-Star break.
It's a marquee matchup tonight at the Big A as the Angels look for their 4th straight victory. We'll be right back with the starting lineups. ESPN's presentation of Major League Baseball is brought to you by O'Doul's from Anheuser-Busch. Premium beer taste without the alcohol.
Back to Friday Night Baseball. We'll get you back to the ball game in just a moment, but we have some time, so let's update things around the major leagues, and we'll start off in the National League, where it's the Phillies and the Giants. Third baseman Steve Scarsone, his first career home run, 6-0, the Giants with the lead, and then Will Clark as well. This battle of the 2 top teams in the National League is going to the Western leaders. The Giants 7-0 at that point. They chase Rivera and rolling on in this one. The Cubs 5-2 over Houston. Mark Grace returned after missing 6 consecutive games with a pulled hamstring. 2 for 4, 2 runs batted in, 2 runs scored, and had a home run as well. Dave Justice and Ron Gant with solo home runs. Atlanta 5-1 over Florida. On to the American League. The White Sox and the Orioles. 3-0 White Sox. 2 men on. Mike LaValliere bats single to left. Bo Jackson rounding third. Brady Anderson to Chris Hoyles, and Bo is gone at the plate. Right now, Baltimore leading it 8-3, coming back from a 3-0 deficit, and the Toronto Blue Jays are losing once again, 4-1. This has been a team struggling. Still, they lead in the American League East. More on that and other games later, but back to the ball game.
And welcome back to Southern California. Joel Myers, Buck Martinez. And the New York Yankees trying to avoid their 4th straight setback, which would be their longest losing streak of the season. Buck Showalter said before they came out on the West Coast that he'd settle for a 500 swing out of the West Coast. They were 5-3 on their first trip out west. Well, that won't happen. That 500 record he was looking for. The lineup tonight for the Yankees: Bernie Williams, the leadoff man out in center field, and Spike Owen will bat second. Don Mattingly hitting third over at first. Cleanup spot, red-hot Danny Tartabull. He's over in right field with Mike Stanley. One of the big surprises behind the plate, Jim Leyritz, the DH, the backup catcher. Then Mike Gallego, the third baseman tonight. A rare start for Hensley Mullins out in left field, and Pat Kelly over at second base.
Left-hander Mark Langston. This will be his 19th start of the season. He's 9-2, and he's had 5 leads blown for him by this bullpen. So his record, in fact, could be better than that. Been selected for the All-Star game. Langston, his last 3 starts, has not been that good. He's pitched late into the ball game, but he has allowed too many hits. Buck Rogers believes that Mark Langston might be showing some signs of fatigue. He pitches a lot of innings, throws a lot of pitches, and the All-Star break might be just in time for Langston. Defensively, it's Polonia, Curtis, and Salmon in the outfield. Salmon leads the league in assists. Easley and DiSarcina on the left side. Torey Lovella, who plays everywhere, is at second base tonight. Smooth fielding, J.T. Snow. And then Ron Tingley's behind the plate. Louis Polonia, just 1 error so far this year. He has really improved his defensive play, and that allows Chili Davis to fill the lineup as the DH.
Now if Louis can just get it together at the plate, because as Buck Rogers said, he has been a disappointment. Bernie Williams, a .240 average, starts it off. And it's strike one as he fouls it straight back. And Buck, I guess you have to say, what makes Bernie run?
Well, he's not your prototypical leadoff guy. He's got his first stolen base last night in the ball game. But Buck Showalter is not that concerned about it. He feels that Bernie Williams has extra base power, so he has a different style of getting to second base.
It's upstairs from Langston, and it's even. At a ball and a strike. On base average for Bernie Williams only .311. But you were just talking about Langston. The last 2 starts, not very effective ones for the left-hander, as it bounced on one hop to the third baseman, Damian Easley. That's the first out of the contest over to J.T. Snow. Mark Langston 1-0 against the Yankees this year, a complete game victory over former California Angel way back on April 28th when he beat Jim Abbott and the Yankees.
And coming out of spring training, Mark Langston was really throwing the ball well. He had a lot of velocity, good command of that sharp breaking curveball. 13 strikeouts in that game against the Yankees early on.
A solidifier up the middle now. The shortstop, Spike Owen. Don't usually see Spike hitting this high in the batting order for the Yankees. He takes it up at the outside edge. 256, a couple of home runs. But he is the stability factor with Pat Kelly. Gives them a couple of players very strong up the middle.
You know, you mentioned it's unusual to see Owen in the lineup in the 2 spot. Buck Showalter had a lengthy meeting with the Yankees prior to the game. Clubhouse was locked. They were discussing this 1-6 road trip, trying to get things straightened out. There's that Langston curveball.
Now a ball and 2 strikes to the shortstop.
Look at Spike Owen out of the batter's box. They start in that batter's box, but as the game progresses, they'll inch their way further and further deep into the back part of that batter's box. There's a good fastball. These 2 guys were teammates in Seattle, of course, Spike Owen and Mark Langston, so they have a pretty good idea what the strengths of each other are.
Spike played on a pretty decent college team, too. Roger Clemens, Calvin Schiraldi, a couple of the pitchers for the Texas Longhorns. The 2-2. Golf down the line and left with a curve falling out of play, and it remains 2 balls and 2 strikes. The New York Yankees trying to figure out what went wrong as they've been blowing these leads. We had them on ESPN last Friday night. You might remember they had a 3-1 lead over the Oakland A's into the 6th inning. Then a couple of little mistakes, throwing the ball into the runner at third. That brought home the tying run. Ruben Sierra to make it 3-all. And then 2 pitches later, it was 4-3 on a Terry Steinbach solo home run.
Yeah, you can't afford to give the teams the extra outs. When you have a situation to record outs, you got to finish off the play.
Didn't miss by much. And a full count. After Owen, it's going to be Don Mattingly who's picked it up. Langston last year, a record of 13-14. Not a very good year, despite throwing almost 230 innings, because he won 5 of his first 6 decisions for the Angels last season. Popped up straight back here. And it will remain a full count. But it was a major investment for the California Angels. And now, over the first 3 years, only 1 winning record for Mark Langston after signing that 4-year, $16 million deal. Bases empty, 1 away. Don Mattingly coming up next. And the payoff pitch to Spike Owen. Line down the line and left. It curves foul once again.
We mentioned that Langston, the last 3 starts, really hasn't been as sharp as Buck Rogers would have hoped. You can see that Spike Owen gets out in front of that fastball, and generally Mark Langston throws hard enough that you won't be able to pull too many balls foul. So that might suggest that he is indeed a little bit tired here. There's a curveball. Owens fouls back.
Well, he had that lead. The last game was a matchup with the Cleveland Indians, but the start before that, an 8-7 loss at Oakland. And in that game, they staked Mark Langston to a 4-0 lead through the first 4 innings, but he could not hold on to it. The off-speed delivery stays upstairs. And Mark Langston walks the shortstop with 1 away. Well, 3 straight wins for Buck Rogers' California Angels in their last at-bat. Living dangerously. It's a young team, and I think it's safe to say this is the type of team that isn't going to be all caught up and aware of what's going on around them. They're having so much fun doing what they're doing right now with Buck Rogers, who seems like the perfect manager for this group.
Yeah, they don't really realize what they've accomplished so far. Just one game under 500 here right before the All-Star break.
Mattingly takes it low for ball one. Just a couple of weeks ago, they were calling all the talk shows in New York and get Mattingly out of the number 3 spot in the batting order. He's not producing. He's not bringing home the table setters. Well, he's been doing it recently, as there's the quick throw. Langston led the league last year in pickoffs with 11. He's got 7 so far this season, but he also throws over there a lot. But Don Mattingly has picked up the pace at the plate.
That was a better move by Langston there. He has a tendency to hang that front foot up. Watch how he just hangs there. Spike Owen took 1/2 step towards second, but didn't stray far enough to be picked off. Langston's got a better one than that yet.
Mattingly sends a high fly ball off the end of the bat to center fielder Chad Curtis, who got a late break. And in the twilight, he's got it for the second out of the inning.
Yeah, Joel, he got a late break because it's awfully difficult right now for the defensive players to pick the ball up off the bat. Not quite dark enough yet here in Anaheim. You can see that there are sun spots on the field as it comes through the side of the stadium. The sun still shining brightly in the upper reaches of the stands in right. Tough background there as you see what the outfielders look at. Tough to pick up the ball off the bat. Sometimes you need some help from your infielders.
I'm surprised with Danny Tartabull getting ready to hit. We haven't seen larger crowds out of the big game, with the Angels doing so well recently and basically in the race the entire season after that great start, winning 13 of their first 18 games this year. But it seems like the Yankees, the Tigers, the Red Sox always draw great crowds to the big A. That has not been the case, though, over the last couple of weeks. And there was a small gathering last night, the opener of this 4-game set. Not a big crowd for a Friday night in Anaheim as well. Owen not on the move. A base hit to left field through the hole. So runners now at first and second with 2 away is Danny Tartabull. Has a hit in his first confrontation with Langston. Tartabull with a home run in the contest last night.
This doesn't look like Langston has that extra little hop on his fastball that we're so used to seeing. That was right down the middle, and Tartabull drove it through the hole on the left side. This generally is a pretty tough time for hitters here in this ballpark. You can see there's sun on the mound, and then it kind of strobes in toward home plate, and that ball passes through the sunlight, and it can be difficult for hitters to pick up. But it doesn't look like the Yankees are having trouble here early.
This is one of the great success stories in all of baseball. Mike Stanley. In each of the last 3 seasons, as you saw Stanley hitting .313 coming in tonight, in each of the last 3 seasons, he's hit .249. The year before that, .246. But that's when he was in platoon duty for the Texas Rangers. Now he's got a world of confidence.
Buck Showalter there named him the #1 catcher right toward the end of April into early May, and that did a lot for him. He's always been a pretty good hitter coming through the minor leagues. He was a hitting prospect, but never really got a chance to establish himself as an everyday player when he was a member of the Texas Rangers.
Langston taking his time with runners aboard at first and second. Tartabull with the first hit of the contest. Mike Stanley with a hit in last night's opener of the 4-game series. A 4-3 victory for the California Angels, scoring 3 times in the ninth. And Stanley come through in the first. It's wide on the off-speed delivery.
Now Langston's just called Ron Tingley out to the mound. He's not really comfortable right now. You can tell the way he's very deliberate. He takes a lot of time between pitches trying to figure out something that's going to work for him here in the first inning, and oftentimes it'll take a starter a while to get settled in. Buck Rogers is an old catcher. He knows about this. Let's take a look at this last pitch. Curveball. They tried to go backdoor with it, but it missed outside. So Langston's not really comfortable with the stuff he's featuring right now.
The next with runners leading away from first and second is tight this time. And it's 2-0. Check that. 2 balls and a strike. There's 2 away. And Plenty of pitches in the first inning for left-hander Mark Langston, coming off 2 so-so performances against the A's and the Indians, on his way to a performance in the All-Star game. Backs up, and it's 3-1. Plenty of offense from the New York Yankees, and not one real standout, but truly a group effort, Buck.
Yeah, it is. Danny Tartabull spent some time on a DL. That's why his RBI totals are down somewhat. But look at the balance in the lineup. Guys off the bench, part-time players like Jim Leyritz getting a chance to contribute. 33 ribbies in that group.
Stanley bounces it foul. And it's now a full count, so a head start for the runners. And that's a similar situation for the New York Yankees. We just saw those RBI totals with 7 now, really coming through with 30+. Similar situation in the power department in home run totals, because there aren't a lot of Yankees in the top 10 in home runs. There aren't any, but they've got 7 that should hit 15+.
That's good production. Every manager would be pleased to have that type of production. I don't think he has any problems with his offense right now. He's concerned about the mistakes.
The runners on the move, and the 3-2 pitch lofted down the line. That's going to drop in, and the Yankees have the lead. Spike Owen touches the plate as Mike Stanley does it again for the Yankees. An RBI double. Tartabull stops at third, and it's 1-0 New York.
Well, you can see Mark Langston wasn't comfortable throughout the entire inning. Stanley gets a 3-2 fastball inner half of the plate and hooks it down into the corner in left field. Polonia gets over, cuts it off, gets it back to the infield, so he keeps Tartabull at third base. Owen comes in to score, and the Yankees jump out to a 1-run lead.
Tartabull and Stanley the base runners. For Jim Leyritz, the DH. And fortunately, he is back for the Yankees. He was limited with a sore wrist. In fact, right when they started the road trip, Leyritz took a cortisone shot in that left wrist. Really not able to do much for the Yankees, so Hensley Mullins started to take some practice behind the plate. For emergency purposes, this is sent into the gap in right center, but plenty of room for Tim Salmon to move over. And he's got it for the final out of the inning. But a couple of hits and a run later, we go to the last of the first. So the Yankees are on top early. Lead. They want to be down by 1 or 2, possibly going into the 9th inning. Just where they want them as we look at the offensive look tonight for the California Angels. Luis Polonia, the table setter atop the batting order. Then Chad Curtis in his second full season, with Tim Salmon, the incredible rookie, hitting third over in right field. Charles Chili Davis in the cleanup spot. Vittorio Lavella, the former UCLA Bruin, at second. Damian Easley at third base. JT Snow over at first, hitting 7th, with Gary DiSarcina, the shortstop, and Ron Tingley behind the plate. And another lefty out on the hill tonight for the New York Yankees.
Jimmy Key, also a left-hander like Langston, but he is much different in the fact that he is a finesse pitcher. He relies an awful lot on a running fastball down and away from the right-handed hitters, has a very good curveball and an outstanding changeup. 95 strikeouts. That's a very high number for Jimmy Key this year, but it's testimony to his outstanding command. Hensley Mullins, Bernie Williams, and Danny Tartabull defensively in the outfield for the Yankees. Mike Gallego is over at third base tonight. Wade Boggs is not in the lineup against the hard-throwing left-hander Mark Langston. Spike Owen, Pat Kelly, great range at second base. The veteran Don Mattingly at first. And Mike Stanley, we mentioned him as the everyday catcher now. He's a good handler of a pitcher. Just sure-handed catcher, just 3 errors in 68 games, and the pitching staff has been very pleased with Mike Stanley behind the plate.
Luis Polonia, first ball, swinging, fouls it away for strike 1. Louis hitting .252, his 25 steals, 5th best in the American League, but he has dropped considerably, and Buck Rogers put it very simply the other day when he said he's been a disappointment at the plate. The bouncer for the second baseman, and Pat Kelly retires Luis Polonia. So a couple of pitches, and Jimmy Key takes care of the leadoff man. But the table setter is so important, and Buck Rogers said when Curtis isn't going, it really magnifies the problems that Polonia's having at the plate so far this season. And Curtis is coming up. He has picked it up, though, over the last couple of weeks. He leads the American League in stolen bases. In fact, the California Angels on top in that department as a team. In fact, we're watching the top team and the team that is dead last in stolen bases in the American League, in the New York Yankees. Curtis Takes it over the outside edge for strike one. He seems to be a throwback to me, Buck. He'll do whatever it takes to get the job done.
Yeah, he was a late draft choice coming out of Grand Canyon College in Arizona. Nobody expected him to do much as a player. They kind of signed him as a courtesy, but man, has he made himself into a fine player.
Slow curve.
I think your description of a throwback is right on the money, because here's a guy that just goes out there and knows that he's got to battle every single day for that starting position. There you see 45th round draft pick. He has really come through, and it's just on the desire, because this guy doesn't have great skills. You know, he's not a sprinter, world-class runner in the outfield, but it's a good jump.
And he's punched out on the fastball over the outside edge. So 2 up and 2 down very quickly. Curtis, though, tries as hard as any player you will ever see in the majors.
Take a look at his last pitch from Key. He has been in that type of groove all year long. He threw a one-hitter out here against the Angels back in April.
Now, Tim Welke is the home plate umpire. Seemed like that call on the last pitch was a veteran kind of call from a veteran home plate umpire to a veteran pitcher. And it's Tim Salmon looking at strike one.
Joel, you know what happens? Jimmy Key has a reputation of having such good command that he's always around the plate, and umpires anticipate this.
Fisted, foul over to the right side, and no, it stays in fair territory for Don Mattingly. So a very impressive start for Jimmy Key as the Angels go 1-2-3, and the Yankees are on top by 1. Beautiful night in Southern California. The second game of a 4-game set between the Yankees and the Angels. The Angels took the opener last night. Yankees on top like they were early last night. And to start the second for New York, third baseman Mike Gallego. And the breaking ball over the inside corner for strike one. What kind of effect as a former catcher does it have on Mark Langston, Buck, to go through a number of catchers? He hasn't had a consistent one behind the plate over the last couple of years for the California Angels, between Tingley, Myers, John Orton. Pop foul back here, and it's 0-2.
Joe, it shouldn't really have that much of an effect on Langston. Here's a guy that's established himself. He knows what it takes for him to be successful, and he should be able to adjust to whoever's catching him on a particular night. And here's a guy that's been around several seasons. You can see the success he's had by that graphic, so he knows what he needs to do out there. My ideas about a catcher communicating with a pitcher are simply the fact the catcher has to meet with the pitcher and recognize what he wants to do. You're not going to tell him how to pitch. You're just going to tell him, remind him what he has to do to be successful. You have your pregame meeting, you go over the hitters, and Mark Langston might want to pitch to Mike Gallego differently than Chuck Finley. So you have to make sure that you understand what Langston wants to do. Hey, the entire essence of pitching is the fact that the pitcher has to be comfortable with what you have on your mind.
The 1-2 to Gallego got him to go after one out of the strike zone. It was in the dirt. The throw to Snow to complete the strikeout. So that's the way the second starts for the Yankees.
Mark Langston's stuff wasn't real good in the first inning. He was struggling to find it, but look at the break on this curveball. He got up on top of it, really snapped off the hook, and Gallego goes after it, but you can see when it crosses home plate, it's well out of the strike zone. Had to protect the 2 strikes.
Another right-handed hitter coming up to face Langston. Rare start out in left field for Mullins. And it's the fastball for strike one. Gotta love the attitude, though, of Hensley Mullins on the recent road trip. He was out here early taking practice as a catcher because of the injury to Leyritz and the sore left wrist for their backup catcher. Even now at a ball and a strike, he said, I'll do anything it takes to stay here. And I think that's the type of attitude all the reserves have for Buck Showalter. They want to play for him that badly. Inside corner, 1-2. Great placement in the second inning for Langston.
Yeah, he's turned it up a notch in this second inning. He's got a couple of miles an hour more on his fastball. The curveball appears to be a little sharper. You know, you mentioned Mullins getting behind the plate. Here's a guy that they've tried at third base. They thought he was going to be a third baseman. Had him in the outfield, and now, just as an emergency, they put him behind the plate. But there are more and more guys in the big leagues that are aware, hey, I'll do whatever it takes. The Angels have one of those guys at second base tonight, Torey Lovullo.
The 1-2. Curveball, fly ball, right center field. Chad Curtis moves over. And he's got it for out number 2. Let's head back to John Saunders. John?
Budweiser out to Philadelphia. Battle of the first-place teams. The Giants and the Phils. Mike Jackson hitting Pete Incaviglia. The bench is clear. No fisticuffs, but you can see Inky look out at the mound. And then, a short while later, Larry Anderson behind Royce Clayton. Umpire Kerwin Danley tosses him. It's 13-7. Joel and Buck.
As they say in radio, the hits just keep on coming.
He knew that there was going to be a lot of tension in that series.
Fastball to Pat Kelly is wide for ball 1. A matchup of the 2 division leaders going on at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. And I guess the Giants with an exclamation point in game 1. And game 2, the 13-run pool about to go by the boards again.
Well, I tell you, they're something, aren't they?
Barry Bonds hasn't had any effect on that team, though.
And they're doing this without Matt Williams right now.
Right, he's still on the DL. The 1-1. 2 balls and a strike with 2 away and the base is empty. All the Yankee coaches raving about Pat Kelly and what he has done for them up the middle. He is such a sound player defensively. Drives it well into left center field. Long run. Curtis is there. He's got it. So 3 up and 3 down for Langston. We go to the last of the second with the Yankees up by 1.
Budweiser takes us out to Skydome now. The Rangers and the Jays are Rafael Palmeiro against Todd Stottlemyre. And this one is gone. His 16th home run of the year. The Jays have lost 8 of 9. Joel and Buck.
Tough time for the Toronto Blue Jays, a team that Buck Martinez, not Rogers or Showalter. I've got to watch my Bucks around here. What about a Moosehead? Chili Davis starts it off by slashing it foul off the right side. For strike 1. We're in the bottom of the second, a 1-0 lead for the Yankees. 63 runs driven in for Chili Davis in the DH spot already. Has surpassed the total that the Angels had from their DHs all of last season. So the average might not be there for Chili, but he's been a clutch hitter for the Angels. It's down the middle and it's 0-2.
Joe, you know what else Chili Davis brings to this ball club is the experience, particularly when you have young players like J.T. Snow, Tim Salmon, Chad Curtis. Chili Davis is a very low-key guy, very calm and well thought out, and he's a good influence with this young ball club.
And the dirt, a ball and 2 strikes. Well, some good advice for the hitters for the California Angels if they need it. He won a few batting titles. The batting coach, Rod Carew for California.
Rod Carew keeps track of every pitch thrown to his hitters, what they hit, what the count was, and he passes that information along to them. When Rod was a player, he did that himself as a hitter. Now he's practicing that for his hitters as a coach. You know, years ago, everybody did that themselves. And now hitters really haven't done that for a while. You know, Chili Davis will do it, and guys like Paul Mahler, the veteran players around the league. But Carew is trying to instill that type of work ethic with his young hitters here.
Chili Davis not happy with the call by Tim Welke. Now Jimmy Key has his 2nd strikeout.
Inside corner, Chili Davis very aware that Jimmy Key works a lot to the outside part of the plate, and he was thinking out over the plate. Key crossed him up, nips the inside corner. Chili Davis didn't agree with Tim Welke, but that's the 2nd strikeout. There's his line on that April 27th game, just 1 hit. He threw 117 pitches in this ball game back in April, and pitching coach Mark Connor said he threw 1 down the middle. The rest were right on the corner. And outstanding control.
Torey Lovullo takes it outside. 273 average. And now a regular for the California Angels. The count is even at a ball and a strike. A former UCLA Bruin, a draft choice of the Detroit Tigers, and then simply released by the Tigers. And it's low, and it's 2 balls and a strike. He was a long shot to make the team out of spring training. And then in the early stages of the season, He was one of those bubble players. Every time there was a player move, Lovullo had to worry whether he was still going to have a job. Was he going to go back to the minors? Well, he started the last 19 games at second. He's not produced offensively like he was earlier as he pops it over to the right side for Mattingly. And that is the second out here in the bottom of the second. Well, it's a year and a half now as the manager for the New York Yankees for Buck Showalter. We asked him before the game tonight, what has the process been like?
You know, the Yankees afforded me an opportunity to come up here as a coach. You know, coming out of the minor leagues, I was full of vinegar, and I thought that I had a pretty good idea about things, but it's a constant learning experience. Being able to be an eye in the sky for a while, coach third base for a year and a half, and, you know, it's a constant learning thing. You're always picking things up, and I hope I'm saying that when I'm 60 years old in whatever job I'm doing. And you draw on situations and experiences, and you try to learn from them. You just try to treat people the way you'd like to be treated. You know, my dad told me that the real measure of a man is how he treats people who can be of no possible use to him. And you try to keep that in mind and try to be straight up with people.
I like it.
One thing I've noticed about Buck Showalter this year, naturally, he's more relaxed, more confident. In the toughest of all media centers in New York, every night the atmosphere in the clubhouse is like a playoff series. Lots of media covering it. Every move is diagnosed 3 and 4 times in the various columns.
Damian Easley sends it deep to left field. Mullins going back, and he makes the catch. What a grab by Hensley Mullins for the final out of the inning. He robs Easley, and the Yankees, after 2, still lead it by 1.
The Big Dipper isn't the only dipper out tonight. Just make
some sparkling defensive play behind Jimmy Key to close out the second. Another look at the play by Mullins.
Well, this ball club on this trip was really not played all that well in the field. And take a look at the reaction. You know, I mentioned they had a long meeting prior to this game just to remind the players, hey, we've got 3 more games before the break. Let's finish up on a real positive note.
Bernie Williams grounded out to the third baseman Easley. His first at bat. Picked up his first stolen base of the season last night here in Anaheim. The bouncer over to the left side and a base hit. So Williams aboard. He had been 0 for 5 in the stolen base department. 1 for 6 now.
Buck Showalter believes that Mullins will improve as a base stealer. He feels that he has the speed. He just needs to work on technique, get more confidence at first base. I don't know that he'll ever be a 25-30 stolen base guy, but he should improve.
Spike Owens scoring the only run of the contest so far after he walked with 1 away in the first and came around on the RBI double by Mike Stanley's. Williams draws the throw. We talked about first and last. First in stolen bases, the California Angels. Last, the New York Yankees. Only 24 so far this season. It would have to help Bernie Williams, who's got a decent lead over at first, if there was someone, anyone over there, a veteran who had been there before, who had picked up 40, 50 steals in a season, that could help him read pitchers, work on technique. But it doesn't appear that that's available right now for the New York Yankees. Spike Owen waiting for the first delivery from Mark Langston. Then another throw. What a throw by Langston. He's got a serious move over to first base.
Yeah, he does, and he hangs up there, and there's a bit of a pause, so you're really unsure which way he's headed. And then he brings that good fastball. Watch the hesitation from Williams. He's still not sure what he's going to do. The tag by Snow. Watch how Mullins comes back to the outside, Williams comes back to the outside corner of that bag.
Will it be the first pitch to Owen? Yes, and it's ball 1. So the leadoff man aboard here in the third with the Yankees on top 1-0. Spike Owen, last 4 years with the Montreal Expos. Before that, the Boston Red Sox and the former first-round draft choice back in June of 1982, the Seattle Mariners. The runner not on the moves. It's fouled off. And it's a ball and a strike.
Many people questioned the Yankees when they signed Spike Owen to that free agent contract, but Owen in Yankee Stadium can really cover the ground. He doesn't have great range. He's not what you would call a wide-ranging shortstop, but man, everything he gets to, he's got sure hands, very tough on the double play, and has a pretty strong arm.
Pops it up, shallow right field. Tim Salmon calls off the second baseman Lovella, and that is the first out. Well, we've got a 9-2 pitcher going up against a 10-2 pitcher. Langston at 9-2, Key at 10-2, and the most victories by a lefty since '84. Top of the list, Viola, but Langston and Key not too far behind.
Mark Langston won 19 games here 2 years ago. Jimmy Key, the most he's won was 17, but you can see they've both been very consistent. Always in double figures in victories.
Don Mattingly, light up the center fielder back in the first. Did he go after the breaking ball? Yes. The appeal down to John Hirschbeck at third. Strike one. Mattingly 1 for 4, drove in a run last night, one of the 3 for the Yankees. Hitting almost 400 over his last 70 at bat, so he has picked it up. Another throw, Williams back in time.
You know, you look at Mattingly at the plate, he no longer uses that exaggerated crouch in the batting stance. He's had back problems, and he just can't stay down in that crouch that long. He also has really cut down on his extra batting practice. He used to just spend hours in the batting cage trying to fine-tune his stroke.
Pops it back here. That it's 0-2. Martinez, stay in the booth. You're not in uniform tonight. My partner leaning out.
That's one of my favorite players in the whole game of baseball. Frank Howard, Big Hondo, the coach here for the Yankees at first base. Enthusiastic, passing along instructions to Bernie Williams.
Is he ever in great shape?
Yeah, he is. He works hard.
Stays fit. 0-2 hole for Mattingly. Williams aboard at first with one away. Just missing the outside corner. Ball and 2 strikes. He talked about learning to cope with those back problems, and that's basically what Mattingly has had to do over the last couple of years, because he missed a good portion of 1990 because of the back ailment. But he did play in 157 games last year while hitting close to 290. Over the last 17, close to 400, while knocking in 14 runs. 7 Gold Gloves over the last 8 years.
Well,
still the complete package.
He has so much pride. He is going to figure out a way to hit. He might not be the Mattingly of the mid-'80s that drives in 145 runs and hits 35 home runs, but he can still be a very productive hitter.
It's a 1-0 Yankee lead. We're in the top of the third with one away, and a 1-2 delivery to Mattingly. He froze on the breaking ball. Vintage Mark Langston. And Langston picks up his second strikeout, the second out of the inning.
Mattingly couldn't pull the trigger. Look at this breaking pitch. It really freezes Mattingly. Couldn't make a swing at that pitch. You know, Langston's curveball is so tough because it starts out of his hand the same plane that his fastball does. He doesn't throw it up where it really tips off the hitter. It comes out of his hand really kind of straight, just about the same plane as that fastball.
Danny Tartabull first ball swinging. Salmon started back. Now he comes in. And that's the final out of the inning. So they waste the leadoff single by Bernie Williams, and after 2.5, still the Yankees by 1.
To Milwaukee, the Twins and the Brewers are Matt Macy facing Dave Winfield, and this one stays inside, and he takes it that way. 4 for 4 on the night, 3 runs batted in, 5 home runs in the last week and a half for Big Dave. 10-5. Back to you.
So Winfield starting to pick it up after a long home run drought. And JT Snow leads it off the Angels in the bottom of the third, taking strike 1. 11 home runs, 9 of those 11 coming right here at home for JT Snow, a young man that struggled ever since the first month of the season. Cued off the end of the bat. Fortunately for JT, his at bat is still alive. It's 0-2.
Joe, I have a theory about J.T. Snow. He came up here in April as the everyday first baseman, and he was thinking, let's just get off to a good start. And you know, first time you play golf every year, you come out and say, well, I'm not really swinging very well. I'm going to be nice and patient with myself. Well, the ball was flying off his bat and flying out of the ballpark. Then he started thinking, hey, I'm hitting home runs. Maybe I can hit 25 or 30 home runs. Started pulling off the ball. Rod Carew now is trying to get him back to where he should be, using the whole field and just thinking about line drives.
A little bit outside, a ball and 2 strikes.
The most home runs J.T. Snow has ever hit in the minor leagues was 15. So he's more of a line drive hitter.
And he's punched out as Key started outside the last pitch. Then he comes inside, set it up perfectly.
Now, the Angels have seen this picture before, back in April when Key hit him. Look at the location. Look how Stanley set up inside. Doesn't even move the glove. The Yankees have said they have never seen anyone in such a tunnel as Jimmy Key when he gets on the mound this year. He is really in a groove.
3 strikeouts now, and all 3 have been called. No one has gone down swinging yet as Gary DiSarcina takes it over the outside corner for strike 1. The Angels shortstop starts the night with a .256 average. A good production from the shortstop position, driving in 37 already this season. The 0-1 breaking ball. Ball and a strike.
Let's take a look at Jimmy Key's motion. He is really in command. Watch how he balances himself when his hands break. Right there, he's balanced now. His body falls forward, finishes up high with that leg kick following through. You know, Jimmy Key, in my mind, is perfectly suited for New York. He gets the ball, goes to the mound, pitches his game, goes back to the dugout, and he's done. He's oblivious to all the media hype.
The chopper with the shortstop. And Owen across to Mattingly for out number 2. We move over to the National League for ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. Home run number 18 tonight for Mike Piazza. The Dodgers 6-2 victory over the New York Mets. And Bobby Bonilla, despite the struggles of the Mets with the worst record in the majors, Bobby Bo putting together some decent numbers, especially in the power department. So join us Sunday night. The Dodgers and the Mets from Shea. And Mike Piazza with 18 home runs. No one right now close in the National League as far as Rookie of the Year candidates are concerned. Ron Tingley hitting with 2 away and the base is empty. And it stays outside and low. It's 2-0. Another one in the infield, the backhand side, long throw by Owen. Not in time. And the Angels come up with their first hit of the evening. It doesn't leave the infield, but they'll take it.
Well, it's a base hit. Fine effort by Spike Owen going to the hole. Even though Tingley, the catcher, was running, he didn't have a shot. But Jimmy Key turns and acknowledges a fine effort. Tingley beats it toward the hole. Owen cuts it off, but he throws off balance and just doesn't get enough on the throw. It's an infield base hit for the catcher. But after that play, Jimmy Key turned around and acknowledged a fine effort by his shortstop, even though it's a base hit.
We're out at the top of the batting order, and Louis Polonia looks at ball 1. Well, we're talking about that one hitter back on April 27th for Jimmy Key. Right now it's a one hitter as we're in the bottom of the 3rd. Polonia grounded out at the second baseman, Pat Kelly, his first time up there. Tails away, and it's 2-0. Louis Polonia last year a .286 average. That's why they're disappointed so far this season. And he also led the Angels with 83 runs scored. You can see the drop off down to .252 so far this season. It's at the knees, and it's 2-1.
You know, Joel, oftentimes a player in the final year of his contract will try to do too much and go away from his strengths. And Louis Polonia has been very vocal about his disappointment of not having a contract and trying to negotiate a multi-year deal with the Angels. Maybe that has spilled into the batter's box with him. Buck Rogers is disappointed in the way Polonia is approaching his at-bats. He's not hitting the ball on the left side as much as he would like. He's got to beat the ball into the ground, utilize the speed, slot it by the third baseman, keep it out of the air, most importantly. Whoa, there's a good pickoff, but Tingley not a stolen base threat at all. Almost got caught napping by Jimmy Key.
Do you get the feeling right now that the way Key is performing, he can almost put the ball wherever he wants?
Yeah, and I've seen him like that before, where he'll really get in a groove and be able to execute. There's another ground ball on the right side, and that's killing Polonia.
To Hopper for Pat Kelly. Polonia's done, and so are the Angels. After 3, it's still the Yankees on top by 1. For Yarns from the Yard as we look back on the incredible career of Reggie Jackson, and no one will ever forget the World Series of 1977. That one game in particular where Reggie hit 3 home runs in that contest. Reggie also spent time here in Anaheim in a California Angels uniform. We remember the incredible career of a 5-time world champion, Mr. October, Reggie Jackson. And Reggie has been with the New York Yankees on this road trip out to the West Coast. Saw him last weekend in Oakland. Never misses an opportunity for the Cracker Jacks.
See, that's a baseball right there, huh?
I love it.
Reggie Jackson eating Cracker Jacks at the old ball yard.
Mike Stanley has knocked in the only run of the game, and he starts off the Yankees 4th. Taking ball 1 from Mark Langston. It's going to be Stanley, Leyritz, and Mike Gallego. It's high, and it's 2-0. Reggie Jackson back with the Yankees now that George Steinbrenner is also back in baseball. And I don't think it's any coincidence that the Yankees are also back.
You know, they needed a shock in the arm. Reggie Jackson always had one thing on his mind when he stepped onto the playing field, and that was going to the World Series. Hitting home runs and going to the World Series. And that's Mr. October, and that's why they brought that spirit back to the Yankees. They also brought back Willie Randolph, another player that had a tradition of winning. So Buck Showalter wants to emphasize Yankee pride and get that pride back.
The 3-1 to the leadoff man. Stanley, a towering fly ball for the center fielder Chad Curtis. That's the first out of the 4th. 4 in a row retired by Mark Langston after giving up that leadoff single to Bernie Williams in the 3rd. Well, the Yankees have improved considerably. If everything works out the way Showalter hopes it will, it'll be their 3rd straight season of improvement. They were 76 and 86 last year. 5 games better off than the previous season. As Leyritz, the DH, light out to the center fielder, takes strike 1. But they have a very involved manager now, and 37-year-old Buck Showalter, and I think that's the big difference. Someone that can truly relate. Very straightforward, as we saw from our conversation with him earlier this evening, that's what he emphasizes. And that's what his dad emphasized to him. Honesty. The 0-2. Does Leyritz stand as far away from the plate as anybody in the bigs?
Yeah, he's way back. He likes to stride into the plate. It's out of a closed stance. He's had some problems, as Joel mentioned, hit on the wrist back in June and still bothering him. There's a great curveball.
3rd strikeout for Mark Langston.
You know, Don Mattingly talking about the improvement of the Yankees. I asked him how it felt being around this club this year. He said this club feels like the 27 Yankees compared to what I've seen the last several years in New York. Paul O'Neill's been a very positive addition to this club. He gets the night off with Langston on the mound. O'Neill is another guy that has a lot of pride in what they do, and all of a sudden they're starting to put together some hungry guys that like another shot at winning there in New York.
Fastball is high and outside to Mike Gallego for ball 1. That was just a couple of weekends ago. Everybody thought it was 15 years ago at Yankee Stadium. The Tigers were in town. Seemed like Munson was behind the plate. Reggie Jackson was hitting cleanup. Greg Nettles was at 3rd base, and they had 50,000 for just about every game for that Tigers series, and that's all they were talking about, the great atmosphere at Yankee Stadium. The 2-0. Off the fist for the third baseman Easley. And another 1-2-3 inning for Mark Langston. It remains the same after 3.5 after the big A. Chad Curtis leads it off for the Angels. Down by a run in the bottom of the fourth inning. Joel Myers, Buck Martinez at the big A, Anaheim Stadium. Crowd of the neighborhood of about 30 to 35,000 on hand. The off-speed delivery. There's strike one from Jimmy Key. Curtis caught looking. One of 3 strikeouts thus far. All 3 caught looking for Jimmy Key. Warm night, easy night for the pitchers in Southern California. Just missing the outside edge. It's a ball and a strike. Curtis, a 24-year-old who during his rookie season last year showed a good deal of patience, sound judgment at the plate, picked up better than 50 walks, only struck out 71 times, so he didn't make a lot of mistakes on his own, and he lashes after that one down the line in left. One hopping the low wall in left field. It's a stand-up double for Chad Curtis to start off the bottom of the fourth.
Curtis got on that inside fastball. Stanley sets up inside. Key trying to get it in there, but Curtis gets the head of the bat out and hooks it down into the corner. Good turn there. A couple of bounces off the wall. Mullins gets over and cuts it off, and it's a leadoff double. Well, let's see how they want to approach it here. Salmon at the plate. You don't want to sacrifice his power and ask him to go to the right side.
Popped out at the first baseman. Don Mattingly, his first matchup with Jimmy Key, and takes strike one. Now you've got the stolen base leader at the same time down at second base, and Chad Curtis has 36 steals already this season. That's why Pat Kelly's cheating so much over at the second base bag. Phenomenal numbers at the plate for Tim Salmon. 16 home runs and 54 runs driven in on the season, and it's even now at a ball and a strike.
Now, Salmon hit a home run on an inside fastball that just didn't get in far enough. Jimmy Key in the first at bat tonight got a fastball on Salmon's hands, and he popped up weakly to first.
And you're talking about the homer last night off the right-handers. The ball is thrown away by Jimmy Key. I'll forget about steal number 37. Curtis didn't need to. They were so concerned with the base runner. You could tell the way Kelly was shading over there before Key was ready to even deal to Tim Salmon.
Key knows this is a bad throw as soon as it leaves his hand. It was a tailing ball. It was away from Pat Kelly at second base. He couldn't get into the runner, and then Curtis moves over easily to third base. But Jimmy Key had Curtis's 36 steals on his mind.
The 1-1. Salmon going the other way with the fly ball to right field. Tartable has it. But it'll also produce the first run of the contest for California. And it's all even at one of the sacrifice fly. Salmon has 7 sacrifice flies now as he knocks in his 55th on the season.
Joe, that shows an awful lot of patience from a young hitter right there. All he was thinking about doing was driving it the other way. Once Curtis got to third base with nobody out, instead of thinking about hitting a 2-run home run, he was thinking about just driving the ball, take advantage of that base runner at third with less than 2 outs. Good swing. He went outside, got the pitch, and drives it deep enough to right to pick up the RBI.
He is such a solid performer for the California Angels. You do forget he's a rookie. As Chili Davis sends the fly ball to left field. It was off the end of his bat, and Mullins has it for the second out. It's easy to forget, though, that Salmon is a rookie. We spent time with him before the game tonight, Buck, and just a solid young man. His brother getting ready for his senior season at USC, as he's going to be their starting free safety. Now it's Torey Lovullo with the bases empty, but it's a new ball game for Mark Langston in his matchup with Jimmy Key, the marquee matchup. Trying to bunt his way aboard. Lovullo fouling it back for strike one. So it's tied at 1 now with 2 away, and a strike one count to the second baseman, who is going to be starting regularly at second. Damian Easley has been moved over to the third because of The problems that have been existing all year long with Kelly Gruber still on the disabled list. Misses outside, so Lovello goes to second, but easily basically has had problems with his shins all season, shin splints, and finally they put him over at third, feeling he doesn't need as much range, as much movement over at third. So Lovello, the benefactor. And there's the breaking ball over the inside edge, 1-2.
Watch the movement on this sinking fastball away from him. That at the end might have been a changeup, in fact. Curveball.
Kelly Gruber's story is somewhat of a sore situation here in Anaheim, Buck.
Yeah, it sure is. You know, Gruber came over in a trade that involved Louis Soho going to Toronto with the Blue Jays. And Kelly Gruber had a press conference when he first came to town, and the first words out of his mouth were to the effect, well, I've got an injury that I suffered in Game 3 of the World Series. And it's been downhill ever since.
We'll get back to that story when we return. There's another strikeout for Jimmy Key, his fourth, but it's all even after fourth, the Big A. Everything turning out as planned with Langston going up against Key. It's tied at 1. Out of the way goes Tim Welke. Ball 1 in the dirt. Hensley Mullins leading things off in the top of the 5th inning. Mullins with a beautiful play, robbing Damian Easley of extra bases a couple of innings ago as he took it off the top of the wall in left field, just in front of where the Angels bullpen resides. Fastball right by him upstairs, and it's a ball and a strike. But to wrap up the Kelly Gruber story we were talking about, just a couple of days ago, Dr. Bobby Brown, the American League president, ruled in favor of the Toronto Blue Jays, that they would not have to compensate the California Angels any further. A $4 million season in earnings for Kelly Gruber this year, as it's now 1-2. The Angels picking up a little more than $2 million of that. I guess it's about 2-3, 2-4 for the California Angels. The remainder for the Toronto Blue Jays. Well, the Angels don't expect Kelly Gruber back for any time in the near future. They were hoping that there would be compensation from the Toronto Blue Jays. Didn't work out that way.
Yeah, the Angels were hoping that the decision would be the Blue Jays would have to pay Kelly Gruber's salary until he was ready to play.
Mullins gone, a strikeout to start the 5th. Back to John Saunders.
And Budweiser takes us to St. Louis, where the Cardinals with a golden opportunity to move just within 4 of Philadelphia. But Lee Smith gives up this home run to Chris Jones. You can see him pull up lane partway around the bases. He did make it around, number 5 on the season. Then Danny Schaefer a home run, and Colorado has the lead 5-4. Joel and Buck.
July not starting out the way June finished up for Lee Smith, as it's pulled foul by Pat Kelly. 15 saves in the month of June for the Cardinal right-hander.
Well, he had 8 on that extended road trip. They were 8-2 on the road trip. He saved all 8 of those games. Picked up number 30 Wednesday night against the Braves.
Pat Kelly trying to push a bunt down the first baseline. And it's 0-2. Do you believe, like some of the others that have been in the American League, that you can take a player like Kelly, put him in the number 9 hole in the batting order, and he's almost like an extra leadoff man?
Yeah, I think that's the way most guys look at it. When you don't have the pitcher in the lineup, the leadoff hitter basically leads off once a game. And that's why I think they can get away with a guy like Bernie Williams. I mean, let's think about how many legitimate classic leadoff hitters are there in the American League. Ricky Henderson still one. Kenny Lofton with the Indians another. Devon White leads off for the Blue Jays, and he doesn't get an awful lot of walks. This year he's having an outstanding year with the batting average.
And I ask because Kelly is a better on-base percentage man than Bernie Williams.
You know, Joe, I think they keep Pat Kelly down here because they don't want him to think an awful lot about leading off in the situation.
Shoots it over the first baseman's head into right field, and it's a 1-out single for Pat Kelly. Oh, Reggie Jackson looking good on this Friday evening in Southern California. Looking buff, like he's ready once again for the Upper Deck Heroes of Baseball Classic. He had a home run in that game last year. What a Monday it's going to be. An All-Star Monday on ESPN. Baseball Roundtable with Chris Berman and company, the All-Star Gala, then the Gatorade Home Run Derby at 9:30 Eastern. And finally, the Upper Deck Heroes at 10 o'clock Eastern. The American League All-Stars, led by Reggie Jackson, trying to duplicate his effort you saw on ESPN last year. So be with us Monday for a big day.
If you haven't had a chance to see Camden Yards very often, make sure you tune in Monday, because it is a gorgeous ballpark, and the Orioles are going to put on a fine all-star show.
It is truly one of the great ballparks in baseball. You're talking about some of the parks that are being put together right now in Cleveland, also in Arlington. It will also be very similar to Camden Yards for overall ambience, taking care of the game for years to come.
The thing about Camden Yards, it fits so perfectly into the surroundings at Harborfront down in Baltimore, right downtown, in the old railroad yards.
Williams fouling it away. It's even now at a ball and a strike. Thus far, the numbers on Mark Langston.
Took him a while to get on track. He struggled a bit in the first inning, allowed the Yankees run, walked the batter, gave up 2 hits, but after that he settled right in. The curveball has come around. The control was much better. Oftentimes a good pitcher like Langston, if you have a shot at him early, you better put him away.
At the knees, ball and 2 strikes. More and more the strike zone is looking the same in both leagues.
You know, Paul O'Neill, who's on this Yankee ball club, said, I haven't noticed too much difference in the style of pitching or the umpiring.
The bouncer over to the left side through the hole into left. So back-to-back singles for Kelly and Williams. Something brewing now for the Yankees in the top of the 5th with only 1 away. So Bernie Williams with his second base hit of the night. He's now 2 for 3. The table setters getting on base tonight for the New York Yankees. The 1 and 2 men in the batting order. Williams a couple of times now. Owen scoring the only run of the night for the Yankees after he walked in the first and came around on the double by Mike Stanley. And he fly it out to the right fielder Tim Salmon back in the 3rd. Can he move the runners up if he can't come through with a base hit? It's over the outside corner. Strike on the fastball. Owen has really never dazzled anyone with his bat, but has always been consistently around 250, 260, that range every year. Mattingly in the on-deck circle. The 0-1. Ball and a strike. Over the first couple of innings, a high pitch count for Mark Langston. But as Buck mentioned, over the last 2+, he did settle down until the top of the 5th inning. He got the leadoff man, Mullins, by way of the strikeout. And a little soft looper. Inside out swing by Pat Kelly with a base hit to right. And then the base hit to left by Williams. Off the end of the bat, 1 and 2.
You can see that swing from Owen right there. He's trying to drive the ball through the right side of the infield. When you have runners at first and second and 1 out, what you don't want to do with Langston is pull the ball on the ground on the left side. Give the Angels a chance for the double play. You can see how he's really trying to drive it right side. Even if he hits it toward the second baseman, it could be a tougher double play for them on that side.
Takeoff play is on. Kelly back in time. The man over at first should get a decent break as JT Snow is playing behind Bernie Williams. It's tied at 1. We're in the top of the 5th. The Yankees have out hit the Angels 5-2, and they've also committed the only error of the contest, which helped California to their only run of the game. It was on a wild pickoff throw by Jimmy Key. Just missing the inside corner, and you can see Langston upset. He wanted that call.
Yeah, he thought he made a pitch there with that fastball. Didn't get the call from Tim Welke. The velocity has picked up a couple more miles now. This fastball is 92. Langston's reaction tells you that he thought that was a good pitch.
So the count is even now at 2-2 to shortstop Spike Owen. He is 0 for 1 with a walk. Only 3 for 15 on the road trip for the Yankees. The road trip where they were swept in Oakland, dropped 2 out of 3 to Seattle, and then lost the opener here last night by the score of 4-3, with the Angels coming up with 3 in the bottom of the 9th. There go the runners. So aggressive baseball from Buck Showalter for a team that's last in the American League in stolen bases.
Well, he's got a good guy at the plate, Spike Owen, who makes contact. So he's not afraid of the strike him out, throw him out. Watch Kelly at second base, gets a good jump going to third. Bernie Williams follows suit, but the ball was beaten foul by Owen. You go ahead and start the runner because you know Owen doesn't strike out much, makes good contact. By starting the runners, you might create a hole on the infield that Owen can drive a ball to.
The 2-2 once again. And the strikeout. Bottom dropped out on that one for Spike Owen. The runner's not going in that time, and that's the second out. Strikeout number 5 for Langston.
Boy, that's a good curveball here. Look at the break on that thing. He took something off, too. You can see how Owen was way out in front. Watch how his weight gets out in front. He's fooled not only by the break, but by the change of speed on the curveball.
Looked like it dropped about 12 inches in the last 3 feet before the plate. So it's going to be up to Don Mattingly, who's been hot recently. He is 0 for 2 tonight, flying out to center fielder and also striking out. The breaking ball pulled into right field. Kelly around third. It's bobbled in right field by Salmon, who will score without a play. The Yankees take a 2-1 lead as Williams motors into third. An RBI 2-out single for Don Mattingly.
Well, you can take away his power, but you can't take away his concentration in run-driving situations. He produces a 2-out base hit through the right side of the infield. And Pat Kelly, a good base runner. Look at this breaking ball. It stayed up in the strike zone, up about belt high, and Mattingly doesn't miss the mistake from Langston. Pulls it through the right side of the infield. Remember, Tim Salmon has the most assists of any outfield in the league, and he was in a hurry to get this. But he bobbled it and didn't have a play at the plate.
So that is now 15 runs driven in over the last 18 games for Mattingly as Danny Tartabull, his first ball swinging. Chopping it foul for strike 1. Tartabull with a home run last night. He has 1 for 2 so far this evening. A 2-1 lead for the Yankees, their second lead of the contest. But don't forget, they led most of the way last night as well. Had a 3-1 advantage going into the bottom of the 9th inning. The 0-1. Ball and a strike. Danny Tartabull missing so many games last year, and that's been the question mark. Can he stay healthy? He was out 3+ weeks with a bruised kidney due to a collision in the outfield with a teammate. He was on the DL this year as well. So to the inside corner on the breaking ball, and it's 1-2. But still last year for Danny Tartabull, despite the fact he played in 123. He had 25 home runs. He drove in 85. And he eats Langston alive for the most part with that .355 average. Can he capitalize? It's tight. And it's 2-2.
Langston hasn't gotten that call on the inside part of the plate the way that Key did throughout the early part of the game. He threw a fastball inside to Owen, thought he had him struck out, didn't get the call.
2-2 to Tartabull off the end of the bat, out of play. What is it? You get a knock against you, and Eric Davis has had that over the last few years with good reason. With the Reds and now the Dodgers, that he just can't stay healthy. And Danny Tartabull, similar situation. He has not had a 500 at-bat season since 1988.
And that's what's holding him back from those home run and RBI years that he put up early in his career.
And Tartabull called out on the breaking ball that he thought was low. The 6th strikeout for Langston. The Yankees take the lead, though, by 1.
Just went to turn my blood.
You want to take a look at the definition of hot? Troy Neal of the Oakland A's. This home run off Quantrill with his 2nd of the game. And he has 4 home runs in his last 5 at-bats. 7 runs batted in yesterday. Back to you.
And that's for a young man that was sent back to Tacoma because he couldn't even hit 200 over the first 6 weeks of the season. And welcome back to the Big A. Joel Myers along with Buck Martinez, Damon Easley. He could have easily had extra bases, but He was robbed by the left fielder, Hensley Mullins, on a spectacular play. A little floater out to right center. Long run. And Bernie Williams won't get there. A leadoff single for Easley. So he rips the cover off the ball in his last at bat. He's got nothing to show for it. Texas leaguer off the end of the bat. He's got a fellow who looks like a line drive in the box score tomorrow.
See, it all evens out, Joel. You just have to be patient. There's a little flare off the end of the bat of Easley. Look at Bernie Williams coming hard. Thinks he's got a shot at it, but just can't catch up. Tartabow with a good job of backing up the play. Keeps the ball from going in the alley more. But good effort by Williams. Just couldn't close the gap on that little Texas leaguer.
J.T. Snow was caught looking his first time up there. Easily back in plenty of time. Average has dropped each month since that torrid start in April. But over the last few games, you can see the power is starting to come back into the bat of J.T. Snow as he pushes that out of play for strike one. Last night, his first at bat, good control, a good bat speed against Melito Perez, who owned the Angels through the first 8+. And he sent it to the wall in left center field.
You know, J.T. Snow is a switch hitter who should utilize the entire field, foul line to foul line from both sides of the plate. He's always hit for high average throughout his minor league career.
He was the key in the Jim Abbott deal in a trade with the New York Yankees.
Great control once again for Jimmy Key. 53 pitches, 4+ innings, and no walks.
The 1-1 to Snow. Tried to check his swing, fouled it away. It's a ball and 2 strikes. Talk about basically being under a microscope. J.T. Snow delighted to come back where he grew up in Southern California, but his father, color broadcaster for the Los Angeles Rams on radio, prominent person around the L.A. area. So it had to be tough on J.T. His first year in a California Angels uniform, and then he looks like the natural over the first 4 weeks of the season. He brought up golf earlier and comparing J.T. Snow and his swing over the first 3-4 weeks when it was so smooth and so easy. And that's the biggest mistake you can make in both baseball and golf, I would think. Just when you think you've got the game beat, you've got it figured out.
Yeah, now I'm really going to hit one hard.
The 1-2. And Snow caught looking for the second time this evening. Let's go back to John once again.
And something interesting to take a look at. Frank DiPino here plunks Rob Deer. Deer thinks about it, but then goes down to first base. But Sparky Anderson says that's not enough. He goes to Rob Deer. He says, all right, I want you over here. DiPino, I want you back here. He's trying to set up a fight like he's Don King or something with Bo and Lewis. Doesn't get it going. But Sparky Anderson trying to play a little promoter here. 10-4.
Sparky needs a new do if he's going to try to emulate Don King. First one is well outside to Gary DiSarcina for ball 1.
Isn't that something? Sparky going out there. Rob Deer, big moose of a guy, might be one of the nicest guys in the game. He didn't want to go out there. He thought about it, but then Sparky says, no, you need to go out there and talk to that Frank DiPino guy.
Get into at least some verbal volleyball. Easley has drawn now a half-dozen throws with a very short lead over at first, held on by Don Mattingly. Blue Fingal started off the inning for the Angels from their third baseman Easley. On the strikeout, J.T. Snow, and now Gary DiSarcina, the 1-0. Slow one. Gallego has the force play. Can they turn to? In time to get DiSarcina, and he's ready to beat with the first base umpire, Darrell Cousins. So the Yankees are out, and they're still up by 1. 2-1 lead for the Yankees in the top of the 6th inning. Welcome back to Anaheim Stadium. Joel Myers, Buck Martinez, and Mike Stanley backing up from ball 1 from Mark Langston. Stanley, Leyritz, and Gallego coming up. So the Yankees got out of that inning on a fine turn of 2. On a soft one-hopper to the third baseman, Mike Gallego. Tough call over at first base for Gary DiSarcina. It's high, and it's 2-0.
Mike Stanley likes the ball out over the plate and has good power the other way. that is a very good asset for him when he plays in Yankee Stadium. He can reach that shallow right center area in Yankee Stadium.
Pops it up into shallow right field. Salmon started back. Now he catches up with it for the first out. So Mike Stanley now 1 for 3 after picking up an RBI double in his first matchup with Langston. And it brings up the DH, Jim Leyritz. .327 average. Good power numbers as well. 9 home runs and 33 driven in. Going after the first one for strike 1. Not a lot of luck, though, as you can see, when he goes up against Mark Langston.
There's a lot of guys around the league with those kind of numbers against Langston.
High and tight as the ball and a strike.
You could see this guy was going to be something special when he first came up with the Mariners back in '84.
The off-speed delivery. Well, Langston had thrown 30 more pitches through 5. He had 87 compared to only 57 for Jimmy Key. And the big difference, the first and 5th innings. Problem innings for Langston. Leyritz going the other way. It's foul and out of play. And it's 2 balls and 2 strikes. The lefties. Boggs to the right of your screen, and Don Mattingly. As Boggs is the first Yankee to start an all-star game at third since Greg Nettles back in 1980. Popped up for the right fielder again, Tim Salmon, in a few steps. That's the second out.
Buck Showalter will rest Wade Boggs from time to time against nasty left-handers like Mark Langston, something Boggs didn't easily accept, but now I think he recognizes, hey, it's not that bad a deal. Boggs is having a very solid year at the plate once again after his worst season last year. So he's rebounded and done a good job for the Yankees. Boggs hitting .294 headed into the action tonight.
Mike Gallego hitting with 2 away and the base is empty. Someone who has done everything that they have asked of him. He's played second, short, at third tonight. Last Friday night on ESPN, and they lost to the Oakland A's. We saw him at the shortstop position. Once again, it's 2-0. Like Spike Owen, a free agent signing by the New York Yankees to add depth up the middle. That has certainly paid dividends. First 3 out of the strike zone after Langston took care of Stanley and Leyritz on fly balls to the right fielder. The 3-0. 3 balls and a strike. Mark Langston, a fly ball pitcher tonight. That's basically the way it's been for Langston in recent years, a fly ball pitcher. Only 2 ground ball outs off Yankee bat so far this evening. And another walk issued by Langston. The first walk he gave up was to Spike Owen back in the first, and Owen came around to score the first run of the contest.
Joe, you mentioned all those fly ball outs. That's because of that skipping fastball that he throws upstairs. Hitters have a tendency to get underneath that and lift it in the air.
Hensley Mullins. He'll have to wait. That was the below average move by Langston. We've already seen the real good move over to first base. He's come very close to catching a couple of Yankees. He's got 7 pickoffs so far this season. Led the league with 11 last year, but not much of a lead by Gallego with 2 aways. He's held on by J.T. Snow. Mullins pushing it down the line in right. Plenty of room for Tim Salmon, and he's got it a couple of feet in fair territory for the final out. So it stays the same after 5.5. The Angels come up, and they're still down by 1.
Rookie sensation Mike Piazza leads the Dodgers charge up the NL West ladder. The Dodgers face the Mets live on America's Game of the Week, ESPN Sunday Night Baseball.
While we have the opportunity, all of us at ESPN would like to extend our condolences to the entire Drysdale family on the passing of a great one. For the last few days, Don Drysdale dying at the age of 56, and our prayers with his wife Annie, the 4 children. As we move to the bottom of the 6th inning in Southern California, and when you talk about Don Drysdale, you get the same type of response from everybody. Class act, man's man all the way. Loved to talk the game. Had a great approach to life.
Yeah, he worked here for several years with the Angels,
Yes.
of course. And I can remember I was catching a game and Don was broadcasting the game, and I was fighting a knuckleballer. And after the game, I heard Don's comments that, you know, Buck ought to be awfully familiar with everybody sitting in the first row behind home plate today. That was great memories of a fine man.
The chopper, Owen, one hops to Mattingly, but not in time. The second infield single of the evening for the catcher. Buck Martinez doesn't love that much.
I tell you, it's been a good run for Ron Tingley lately. 2 infield hits tonight. Take a look at this. Spike Owen showing pretty good range behind the bag, but twice tonight Owen can't get enough on the throw to shoot down Tingley, and Ron Tingley, the catcher, with 2 infield hits tonight. Spike Owen is ranging far and wide tonight with Tingley at the plate, but even the fine effort by Mattingly can't keep Tingley from his second infield hit.
Luis Polonia with the bunt. Gallego bare hands it. A beautiful play by the third baseman. The sacrifice is good, though. 5-3 on the putout as Tingley gets down to second.
Excellent bunt by Polonia. He puts it right down the third base line. Gallego was in short. He was expecting to bunt. Polonia is thrown out, but he moves the runner into second base.
So the tying run is in scoring position now for a 300 hitter at the plate, Chad Curtis. Curtis with a double scored the only run for the Angels in the contest back in the 4th inning, and also was caught looking for the strikeout victim of Jimmy Keys. Another slow roller on the infield for the shortstop Owen. Across in time for the second out. So now it brings up the leading candidate for Rookie of the Year, Tim Salmon, the Angels right fielder.
Let's look at a scouting report on Tim Salmon. Inside half so far, he's shown everybody in the league that that's where his strength is. So now you've got to try down and away with the sinker ball. Pitchers and catchers around the league still not really certain what they might try to do with Salmon at the plate.
How many chapters are complete in that book? It's still being written. That's looking
right.
away for ball 1. Salmon has been absolutely phenomenal in these situations. You see the projected final numbers overall, but hitting with men in scoring position and 2 away, a .371 average with 3 home runs and 19 runs driven in. And he tied up with the Angels. 2-0.
You see where Key's going to work him right now. He's not going to want to give him anything on the inner half of the plate. Salmon has shown Key and the Yankees that he can handle that pitch. He homered last night in the ball game on a ball on the inner half of the plate. So here with 2 outs, you're going to try to work on the inexperience of Tim Salmon and see if you can get him go fishing after that sinker ball. Right there.
2 balls and a strike. We talked to Tim before tonight's game, and he worked with Gene Richards, his minor league hitting instructor, before joining the Angels for his first full major league season. And he said one thing: you have to trust yourself, is what Gene Richards always instructed him. Trust your own instincts. Don't listen to everybody else around the cage telling you what you need to do, because all of a sudden it becomes a circus. So they're 2-1, and it's 3 balls and a strike. Well, he's been true to his word, and it certainly paid off.
Well, I think he has discovered early what some players never discover, that you can't listen to everybody and you can't try everything. You have to stick with one thing. Chili Davis on deck. Salmon shouldn't expect a very good pitch from Key right here, even though it's 3-1.
Bouncer up the middle. The shortstop has it. Not in time. The Angels tie it at 2. Salmon does it again with a man in scoring position and 2 away.
Well, there's another page in that book just filled up. He goes down and gets that sinker ball, takes it right back up the middle. It doesn't get out of the infield, but Spike Owen spins and fires, and it's late to first. 2 infield hits in the inning lead to an Angel run, and look at Spike Owen has gone behind the bag a second time this inning, but can't throw out Tim Salmon. And that speedy catcher, Ron Tingley, scores.
He's a flash. Chili Davis takes ball 1. So now Tim Salmon has driven in both runs this evening for the California Angels as he knocks it at 2 in the bottom of the 6th. He has driven in 56 on the season. Chili Davis 0 for 2 tonight. Fly it out to the left fielder. Also caught looking. As Jimmy Key has 5 strikeouts so far. And a busy inning for Spike Owen in the short way of the force play. But the Angels and Salmon get the equalizer on the infield RBI single. And after 6, it's even at 2. We head to the 7th inning in Southern California. The marquee pitching matchup turning out to be exactly that. Jimmy Key and Mark Langston.
It took Langston a while to zero in with the control. He struggled, gave up a run in the first inning. Jimmy Key from the outset has been pretty good, but the infield's hits have cost him tonight. 3 infield hits and an infield hit by Tim Salmon right there drove in the tying run. 2-2. Good pitcher's duel.
2 pitchers headed the All-Star game. Mark Langston throwing a high total of pitches compared to Jimmy Key so far this evening. But really only 2 problem innings for Mark Langston. The 1st and 5th, where the Yankees scored their 2 runs. Our statistician Dennis Mnuchin fills me in. 99 pitches thus far for Mark Langston. And a scorcher up the middle. It's been that kind of night for the hitters. They have not really had that many clean shots. As it's a leadoff single for Pat Kelly. So often when you talk about the way Jim Abbott pitches, the lefty for the New York Yankees, he saws off so many bats, and that's what we've seen tonight. Not too many good looks from the hitters against these 2 lefties.
Now, and they're 2 classy pitchers that can really disrupt the timing of the hitters. Langston does it by adding a little velocity. Key does it by taking a little off.
So the Yankees tied up once again. Trying to take the lead in the top of the 7th. The leadoff man aboard, Pat Kelly. We saw some aggressive baseball earlier this evening for Buck Showalter. The 2-2 count on Spike Owen and runners at 1st and 2nd and only 1 away. He was trying to stay out of the double play, so he started the runners on a team that lacks a good deal of speed. Let's see if he does something like that early in this top of the 7th. Will pop up into shallow right. Salmon moving in. He has had the last 4 outs now for Mark Langston.
Pretty good indication that Langston is maintaining that good velocity. The hitters are late, hitting a lot of weak fly balls to right field. So Langston took a little while to really get everything together here tonight. First inning, he struggled with his control. Velocity wasn't really there yet, and he didn't have good command of his curveball. But since then, he's had everything working for him.
Spike Owen scoring the first run of the night for the Yankees in the 1st after drawing a 1-out walk from Langston. He is 0 for 2. And he at least advanced the man to scoring position. He struck out his last time up there in that situation I was just talking about with runners at 1st and 2nd. And while we watch 2 All-Star pitchers tonight, plenty of grumbling around the majors. With Langston and Key headed to the All-Star game, and both $50,000 richer due to the contracts that they have, the All-Star bonuses. Plenty of players like Greg Jeffries of the Cardinals and Mickey Tettleton of the Tigers with 70-plus RBIs, wondering why they're not a part of the All-Star festivities at Camden Yards.
Well, it's a tough situation. Every team has to be represented. Cito Gaston, when he put the American League club together, was thinking about putting the club together that could win.
Line drive into center. Almost misplaying it, Chad Curtis. That is out number 2.
Let me tell you, Mickey Tettleton certainly deserved to be on the team, but what hurt him, in my estimation, is the fact that he moved around so much. Left field, DH, first base. He didn't really log any position. Chad Kreuter's doing most of the catching in Detroit this year. If Tettleton was behind the plate with those kinds of numbers, there would have been no hesitation whatsoever. But Cito Gaston trying to put together a pretty balanced ball club, and he said, hey, I'm going to call some guys and let them know how difficult it was to leave them off the team, because there are guys that deserve to be here.
So there's 2 down. Don Mattingly with an RBI single his last at bat. That gave the Yankees a brief 2-1 lead. So he came up with the RBI single in the 5th. He is 1 for 3. And it's low and away, ball 1.
That RBI he picked up came on a curveball that Langston left about thigh high. Mattingly drove it through the right side of the infield.
Mattingly with the fly ball. Drifting over towards left center. Curtis under it. And that's the final out of the inning. So Pat Kelly came up with the leadoff single. The Yankees couldn't capitalize. 7th inning stretch time now. The Big A. For the first time this evening, the Angels get ready to hit, and they are not trailing in the contest. It is all tied at 2 in the bottom of the 7th inning. Uncharted territory for the California Angels. The way they've been the cardiac kids here. They have won 3 in a row, and they've won all 3 in their last at-bats. Jimmy Key cruising along. He's held the Angels to 2 runs on 5 hits. Talk about tough luck. The 6th inning for Key. The ball didn't leave the infield. Still, he gave up a run. And it's low. The leadoff man, Torey Lovullo, as it's 2-0. Torey Lovullo struggling with the plate recently. He's 0 for 2 so far tonight. Over the outside corner, 2 balls and a strike. It was just about a month ago that Angels were back in Detroit for a 3-game series with the Tigers. And Torey Lovullo came up. In the 9th inning, man in scoring position, came up with a base hit. Turned out to be the game winner. And was it ever sweet for somebody who was completely released by the Detroit Tigers organization as he grounds out to start the 7th. Well, some decisive plays in this contest. We start off with a defensive gem. Back in the 2nd inning, Damian Easley sending it deep to the wall in left, and a rare start out in left for Hensley Mullins. He takes away extra bases. And then in the 4th, Jimmy Key, after a leadoff double by Chad Curtis, hurting himself. Curtis on his way to 3rd on the air by the pitcher, and he came around to score on a sacrifice fly off the bat of Tim Salmon to tie it at that time at 1 apiece. Spike Owen has been busy. That is out number 2. Let's check in once again with John Saunders. John?
We'll move up to Seattle, Cleveland, and the Mariners, and Mike Flowers blasts his 2-run home run, his 6th of the year. Head off Cliff Young, and then Cliff Young a little angered by that. A couple of batters later, he plunks Tino Martinez, and he is tossed out of the game. It's 5-1.
Seems to be contagious this evening. Jimmy Key didn't want to stay out there very long in the bottom of the 7th. He only needed about 6 pitches, and the Angels are gone. After 7, it's still tied at 2. ESPN's presentation of Major League Baseball is brought to you by Miller Sharps. Miller Sharps gives you great beer taste anytime. Welcome back once again to the Big A. Joel Myers, Buck Martinez, and the Yankees and Angels tied up at 2 in game 2 of their 4-game set. Danny Tartabull, he'll watch that one. No doubt about it. The Yankees lead again. Second in as many nights for Tartabull. His 14th on the season. It's 3-2 New York.
Watch the swing on this fastball that stays up mid-thigh. No doubt about it. Great follow through. And every once in a while, Danny Tartabull will turn on a pitch. He knows it's gone. Well back in the bullpen in left field.
Mike Stanley with a breaking ball for strike one. Cardinals failed to capitalize on that Philly loss to the Giants. All the highlights from all the games around the majors coming up on SportsCenter right after baseball on ESPN. Ball and a strike to the former Florida Gator Mike Stanley. But Danny Tartabull, has he ever been hot over the last 3-4 weeks?
Well, it takes a while when you come off the disabled list to regain your timing. And now it's just about time. He'll be sad to see the All-Star break come up next week.
Stanley rolls it foul. It's a ball and 2 strikes.
Langston showing signs of some mid-season fatigue lately. Buck Rogers is going to hold him back. He'll be the 5th starter after the All-Star break, just to give him an extra couple of days of rest.
Pulled over to the left side and finds the hole into left field. A base hit for Stanley, his 2nd hit of the night. Well, more golf is coming your way on ESPN this weekend. It's the Anheuser-Busch Classic from the Kingsmill Golf Club in Williamsburg, Virginia. David Peoples won it last year. It all begins at 1:30 Eastern time tomorrow, and then Sunday, the final round coverage at 2:30 Eastern. Curtis Strange playing well on his home course. David Peoples, though, the defending champion, trying to win back-to-back titles in that tournament for the first time since '83. Jim Leyritz. Ball 1. The DH for the Yankees 0 for 3 tonight. Lied out a couple of times to the right fielder, also struck out. Stanley, a very short lead over at first. The fastball. It's even at a ball and a strike. We saw another potential bench clearing brawl. Seattle and Cleveland up the King Dome with the Mariners leading in that contest. And Buck, you brought up a very interesting point while we were away. I'm not in love with the DH at all, and it sounds like you aren't either.
Well, you know, pitchers, they just often plump guys now and then. If they had to hit, maybe they'd think twice about it. That was the old remedy for that. You know, if you were man enough to hit somebody and then take your lumps when you came to the plate, that's fine. Something's got to be done. I think it's just got to be addressed. Not a hand.
Off the glove of the third baseman easily into left field. Will it be a base hit or an error? As it looked like he let that ball play him a little bit.
Left-handers Ken Patterson behind that awning, and the right-hander Gene Nelson starting to throw.
So after the home run by Danny Tartabull to give the Yankees a 3-2 lead, singles from Stanley, Leyritz, and a trip to the mound from the pitching coach.
Chuck Hernandez out to talk to Langston, just to give him a bit of a breather right now. Remind him, let's change speeds a little bit. I haven't seen the change up much here in this last inning. Got to expect the possibility of a bunt right now, so Damian Easley comes over to make sure of the coverage. Buck Rogers is well aware that, at least in Buck's mind, that Langston is showing signs of running out of gas. 10 hits in the Yankees tonight, and that's inordinately high for Langston.
Daylight play, and it almost found center field. Tried to decoy the runner. Mike Stanley down at second. So they gave the look like DiSarcina was coming over.
Yeah, he was going to third. They were trying to get the base runner to go with him. And now they'll put another play on as Easley's back to the mound with instructions for Langston. Gallego, an excellent bunter. Ideally, you'd like to see Gallego bunt it toward the third baseman easily, draw him away from a bag, so they have to go 5-3 for the putout.
Shows the bunt pulls back. It's strike one.
Langston's an excellent fielder, and Gallego will have to get the ball by him. Mark's very quick off the mound. His job right now is to break to the foul line. If he can cut the bunt off before it goes by him, he can wheel and fire and get the lead runner at third.
Yankees on top by one, looking for more.
All of the confusion here is because Easley has been playing a lot more second base this year. Now at third base, he's got different defensive responsibilities. We talked about Gruber. He's on a disabled list. Rene Gonzalez played a lot of third base early, but right now Damian Easley has been the semi-regular third baseman since coming off the DL.
The rotation play, and Gallego swinging away, pops it foul over to the right side. Will Snow get there? Off his glove. Well, he had to contend with the tarp.
Well, what a good effort by J.T. Snow. Well aware that he was going to have a collision with that tarp that's rolled up along the wall. Look at the concentration. Wants to take advantage of this foul pop-up and pick up an out. He actually gets a glove on it, but he can't close the glove.
A big break for the Yankees. They took the bunt off. And now it's 0-2, but still a life for Mike Gallego, the longtime former Oakland A. Back at home, where he played his college ball for the UCLA Bruins in Southern California. Shoots it foul, and it remains 0-2. Been a tough road trip for the New York Yankees. 1-6, swept by the A's, lost 2 out of 3. For the Seattle Mariners, and so many one-run losses.
You know, Joe, Buck Showalter was kind of concerned about this trip because the 3 teams that he stopped and played, Seattle, Oakland, and the Angels, are all in the midst of that very bunched-up American League West pennant race. And they're scrappy ball clubs right now. That concerns Showalter. And his concerns have been played out.
Stanley, the lead runner, down at second. Leyritz over at first. And an 0-2 count on Mike Gallego when they asked Buck Showalter about coming out west against teams that have struggled this year. He said it's scary for me because they're all in the race. They're all fighting for their lives. The 0-2 barely misses the outside edge. A ball and 2 strikes. Langston wanted that call from Tim Welke. Didn't get it. The Yankees to take it a step further. And that's why Buck Showalter was probably saying I'd take 500 on this road trip before the All-Star break, because 13 of the next 16 for the Yankees after the break are at Yankee Stadium, where they've been red hot. The Yankees have not had a winning West Coast overall trip out here since '87. The 0-2. Gallego won't give in. Even though he's behind the count, he's trying to advance the runners by going the other way.
Sure, you've got to believe that 0-2, 1-2, you're probably going to make it out. But if you're going to make it out, make it on the right side, a tougher part of the field for the Angels to turn 2, because you got to throw back to second.
The 0-2. Slow roller for Easley. He'll get the force play. The throw across in time for the double play. Well, Easley had problems with that ball off the bat of Leyritz, but he certainly made up for it there.
Well, what a good effort by Easley. Look how quickly he goes to the bag and actually sets up for the throw before he makes contact. Pushes off the third base bag, and look at J.T. Snow thinking about the base runner rounding the bag. Look at Stanley trying to break up 2 here. Hard slide, but Easley, with that second base experience, dances right out of the way.
Hensley Mullins looks at ball 1 low. He's looking for his first hit of the night. Fly it out to the right fielder, struck out, and also fly it out to the center fielder. There's 2 away. Leyritz in scoring position down at second after the double play off the bat of Gallego.
There's another example of the Yankees' failure to execute the sacrifice bunt costing them.
Mullins sends his bat and also sends the ball to the left field for Luis Polonia. So it looked like it was going to be a huge inning for the Yankees after the home run by Tardouble and then back-to-back base hits. But Langston and the Yankees are making the Angels escape with only a one-run deficit. The Yankees now with a one-run lead once again as we move to the bottom of the 8th inning. And can they capitalize? Can they hang on and take advantage of another Toronto Blue Jay loss? Blue Jays now dropped 8 of their last 9. Yankees can make it a one-game deficit in the standings if they hang on to the 3-2 lead. The Angels, on the other hand, well, Chicago lost. They were hammered by the Baltimore Orioles earlier this evening. So can the Angels battle back for the 4th straight time? And it will also be their 4th win in a row for the first time, putting together a 4-game winning streak since late May. Gary DiSarcina takes strike 1 from Jimmy Key. Key looking for his 11th win of the year. He came in at 10-2. Opponents only hitting .226 off the left-hander so far this season. He's only given up 2 runs on 5 hits. The last run for the California Angels came in the 6th despite the ball not leaving the infield. It was textbook baseball for the Angels after an infield single, then a sacrifice. Blowing away, and it's 2-1. You have to like the nucleus for Buck Rogers and the California Angels with players like DiSarcina, Easley, Curtis, and Salmon in the outfield. JT Snover at first base. It's off the end of the bat foul, and it's 2-2. Now can they get pitchers to complement Finley and Langston? Sanderson has slowed down considerably. Springer has not been the 5th starter so far the way they had hoped, and Hilly Hathaway has been bothered by a blister on his finger. He had to leave last night after 2+ innings.
They lost Julio Valera to surgery. Joe Gray, their closer, is getting close to joining the start again.
Jimmy Key fields it well. And that's the first out here in the 8th. We've seen a couple of nice plays from the pitcher tonight defensively.
Joe, when you're a sinker ball pitcher and you get a lot of ground balls, you better be a good fielder. You've got to become an extra infielder. And look at the reaction. Key has a good fielding position, puts a glove on it, and goes to his knee to make sure he comes up with it. He's an excellent fielder and has worked very hard to make sure that he always can contribute. That error he had earlier in the ball game was a throwing error. It comes as a surprise.
Pat Kelly gets the roller off the bat of Tingley for the 2nd out of the inning. And we go back to John Saunders once again.
We talked about Troy Neal and his 2 home runs, 4 in his last 5 at-bats. Well, this time he was just on base with a single, and Mike Aldrete did the damage with his home run as the Oakland A's starting to roll a little bit right now, leading the Red Sox 4-2.
You know, that's significant with Tony La Russa's skills there. Mark McGwire's expected back about the 1st of August. And that division, the American League West, is really up for grabs.
I was talking to Dave Campbell last Friday night when we did the Yankees and the A's, and I felt like the biggest mistake the rest of the West probably accomplished so far in this first half of the season was letting Tony La Russa and the Oakland A's hang around.
I was talking to Hal McRae, and he said, you know, we'll be okay if we can pick up a pitcher, maybe a relief pitcher, a starter, and maybe an extra hitter. I said, what happens if you don't get one of those 3 things? He says, well, I'll have to be smart. I'll just have to be a real tough manager. I'll have to be the smartest manager in the division that's not a lawyer. Everybody's thinking about La Russa.
The 0-2. Bologna pulls it for Don Mattingly. And that is 7 in a row retired by left-hander Jimmy Key on his way to the All-Star game. We're through 8, and the Yankees still lead by 1. The game just a little bit more than 2 hours old, and why do I have this sensation that I'm in a National League ballpark?
It's quick.
3-2 Yankees. Langston back to the hill to work to Pat Kelly to start the Yankees 9th. First ball swinging, fouls it out of play for strike 1. It's the California League, Buck. They've got a new rule this year where once the hitter gets into the box, he can only take 1 foot out. He's got to stay and keep 1 foot in the box. I think the average is 2 hours and 15 minutes per game.
So many times you see hitters get out of the box and wander down the line, look at the sign. Hey, all you got to do is step out, take a look at the coach, and get back in. Ooh, look out.
He almost walked right into that one.
Boy, did he ever. He was going to
strike.
drop a bunt down, and he moved into the ball, and Langston's fastball was up and in. Look at Kelly squared around the bunt. Really has to bail out in a hurry.
The 1-1. They had any ideas about leaning in once again? And that goes back to what we were talking about. So many pitchers don't come in. The pitchers, or obviously the hitters, feel like they own that inner portion of the plate. And the reason behind so many of the bench clearing brawls. It's at the knees, and it's even at 2 balls and 2 strikes. I love what the Angels manager Buck Rogers told me, though. He said, when I was a hitter, and it seemed like everybody was the same way in the 50s and 60s, you had fear when you went up there, and it was healthy. Now they get up there, and there's no fear with the hitters. The double-flapped helmets and all the other protective gear. Chopper foul. It remains 2 balls and 2 strikes.
The hitters are now intimidating the pitchers. You'll see hitters raise their hand to the umpire, say time, and then dig a big trench to dig in and make themselves comfortable. That's Langston's pretty effective outing. We always talk about Bob Gibson. Hitters would just tiptoe into the batter's box.
2-2 to Kelly. Looper into center field. It'll drop in front of Chad Curtis. And Pat Kelly has his 3rd hit of the night. He is up close to 270 now, as he's 3 for 4 this evening. The very best of SportsCenter is coming your way on Wednesday, July 14th. An innovative look at the year in review, the best of SportsCenter. It's going to show stories that actually appeared on SportsCenter. How it happened, when it happened, as it happened. The day Mario Lemieux shocked us with his announcement. Sunday comeback of the Buffalo Bills. As Hensley Mullins is backing up. That's the best of SportsCenter. We'll take you back in time. Let you relive those times as they happen. Join us on the 14th on Wednesday. It all starts at 8:30 Eastern. And SportsCenter is coming up after baseball from Southern California with Linda Cohn and Carl Ravitch. The Giants, can they be slowed down? Doesn't look that way right now. It'll be one of the lead stories tonight on SportsCenter as Mullins goes around. And it's even at a ball and a strike.
Williams tried to lay off that high fastball. You can see his bat went way around. Pretty easy call for the umpire at first.
Mullins does not have a sacrifice so far this season. Or check that. Williams does not have one. So he tries to put the bunt down. And it's a ball and 2 strikes. 0 to follow. Looking ahead at the California 9th with the Angels right now trailing by a run. Curtis, Salmon, and Chili Davis. The trio that did the damage for the Angels in their 4-3 come from behind victory last night.
Joe, we heard Buck Showalter talk about his team's lack of execution on this trip, leading to a 1-6 record. Tonight in the 8th inning, with runners at first and second, a run in and nobody out, he asked Mike Gallego to sacrifice. He couldn't do it. Ultimately hit into a double play. Again, Bernie Williams couldn't get the bunt down.
Is he swinging away now with a 2-strike count? It's 2-2. The Yankees by a run. There goes the runner. He's swinging away. Strike 3. The throw. A double play. The little thing that the Yankees have not been doing come back to haunt them once again, despite the fact that they're leading by a run.
Ron Tingley doesn't get an awful lot of playing time, but he can really catch and throw. Look at Kelly. He looked like he hesitated, like he might have felt a twinge or something. Watch him slow down right here. And then all of a sudden say, oh, I better get going. The hesitation cost him an out.
It brings up Spike Owen. And it's strike 1. He looked back to see if the ball was put into play, and for some reason really stopped.
Well, he did. And that's what Showalter's been concerned about with this ball club. The failure to execute the little things that continue to drive towards second on that stolen base attempt.
Mark Langston now over 130 pitches thrown so far this evening.
Showalter had a lengthy meeting before this game. In fact, it was so long the Yankees were late taking batting practice. Trying to sort out some things.
Ball and 2 strikes to Owens. And with the Yankees sliding on this West Coast trip before the All-Star break, the inevitable question, of course, is there going to be an explosion from the front office, Mr. Steinbrenner in particular? So they've been talking about the heat back in New York, but most of the heat right now is in the Yankee dugout here out on the West Coast. Even at 2 balls and 2 strikes, 2 away, bases empty. Top of the 9th inning. Yankees by a run, but they have plenty of opportunities to capitalize for more. 3 runs on 11 hits. They have stranded 8 so far. Owen going into the gap in right center. It's cut off by Salmon. Spike trying to turn it into 2. The throw in time. Outstanding defensive play in the top of the 9th by the California Angels. And Tim Salmon, the leading candidate for Rookie of the Year in the American League. We go to the bottom of the 9th at the Big A. Catch-up time once again in the bottom of the 9th for the California Angels. They've done it in the last 3 games, and we asked Tim Salmon what these come from behind victories have meant to the young squad.
It definitely builds our confidence. I think going out there the way we've done it in the last few games is against their stoppers, and especially I think Jeff Russell, who just has tremendous stuff. And then, you know, last night with Farr, I mean, it definitely builds our confidence knowing that, hey, you know, we can be down and we're going to play until, you know, we make those 3 outs in the 9th inning. And lately we haven't had to make 3 outs in the 9th inning, so it's been a, you know, confidence builder.
Curtis, Salmon, and Davis up here in the 9th. The 1-0 count to the leadoff man, and Chad takes it over the outside edge. Tough call. It's even a ball and a strike.
Buck Rogers, little encouragement to Tim Welke, saying don't give up on that pitch now. That sinker ball is going out of the strike zone right at the end.
The 1-1. The 1 hopper from Mike Gallego. And there's the first out of the 9th. Well, Tim Salmon recording that final out on the perfect peg to second base when Spike Owen tried to stretch his single into a double. Picked up his 11th assist, and that is tying Sammy Sosa now for the major league lead.
Good gamble by Owen with 2 outs. Go ahead and force the issue, but look at the perfect throw and then the tag by D. Sarcina. Tim Salmon has probably had a bang-up first year.
It's outside on the first delivery to Salmon.
This is really where Jimmy Key's experience really pays off. He's not going to give in anything to the inner half of the plate that Salmon can hit the ball out of the park. He'll give up that single, but he's not going to give him anything inner half of the plate. Not even going to mess with that.
There's not been a ball to the outfield for the California Angels since the 4th inning off Jimmy Key. He has been incredibly sharp this evening. It's over the outside corner, and it's 1-2.
Right now, he can throw it in the thimble.
Is he focused?
He doesn't get himself into trouble with walks.
1-2 count to Salmon. And he is punched out. The first strikeout in some time for Jimmy Key since the 5th inning. His 6th overall.
This is a changeup. Look at the location. Great arm action. And look at Salmon's reaction. He thought it was low and away.
6 strikeouts, Buck, and 5 of the 6 caught looking. So the Angels down to their final outs. Their leader and runs batted in, Chili Davis at the plate. He's 0 for 3 so far this evening. Goes after the first one. It's out of play for strike 1. The Angels trying to pick up their 4th straight win. It would be their first 4-game winning streak since late May. The Yankees have not lost 4 in a row so far this season. It's at 3. That matched their longest so far. 0-1 count to Davis. Sports Center, Linda Cohn and Carl Ravitch coming up next. All the scores and highlights from around the majors. Jimmy Key trying to pick up his 3rd complete game, his 11th victory of the season. And it's a ball and a strike.
Joe with 6 strikeouts tonight. Jimmy Key now has 101 on the season. His career high back in '86 was 141. And we're just at the halfway mark.
Outside corner again, 1-2. Looks like the Jimmy Key of 1987 as we see Tim Salmon, the disappointment in the Angel dugout. But he looks like the Jimmy Key of '87 when he won the American League ERA title.
You know, going back to the World Series, Key has really found the groove, and he's not deviating from that. Outside corner, that's his.
Yankees by 1. 2 away, bases empty. The 1-2 to Davis. Even at 2 balls and 2 strikes. You might remember what Buck's talking about. Jimmy Key taken out of the rotation of the League Championship Series. Got a start in Game 4 of the World Series. Picked up the victory. And also picked up the win in the decisive 6th game of the series. The 2-2 to Davis. Took something off that one, and it's a full count.
Key thought he had that one. He'd been getting the call all night long. Mark Langston didn't get those similar calls. But Key has been on the corners most of the night.
The ERA leader in the American League at 2.33. Jimmy Key has only given up 2 runs so far this evening on 5 hits. And the payoff pitch to Davis. Ball 4. The tying run is aboard as Key issues his first walk of the evening.
Let's take a look at ball 4. That ball definitely outside. Billy Davis discards his bat as if to say to Tim Wilkie, that other one was outside too. First walk of the night. There Jimmy Key puts the tying run on base.
Rod Correa, the pinch runner for Chili Davis, over at first now. Torey Lovullo 0 for 3. Has not been able to get the ball out of the infield. Popped out the first baseman, grounded up the shortstop, and also struck out. The first is wide again for ball 1.
Correa hasn't seen Jimmy Key's move at all as a base runner. So he's going to make sure that he doesn't drift too far off the bag.
The 1-0 to Lovullo. Went after one that could have been out of the strike zone. It's a ball and a strike. Leaping out of his shoes after that one.
You can't approach Jimmy Key like that. You have to be patient. If you start going after that motion, you'll be way out in front.
The 1-1. The bouncer to Pat Kelly should do it. Over to Mattingly. And the Yankees take the second game of the 4-game set and snap their 3-game losing streak. And coupled with the Toronto Blue Jays loss, their 8th in their last 9 games, the Yankees now only a game out of first place in the Eastern Division. So Jimmy Key picks up his 11th win of the season, his 3rd complete game. The Yankees take it by the score of 3-2. Piazza with another home run for the Dodgers tonight. That's the matchup on Sunday night. The Dodgers and the Mets. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, all starting at 8 Eastern. For Buck Martinez and our entire ESPN crew, I'm Joel Myers. Thanks for joining us. Sports Center is coming up next.